notwithstanding the past, that my presence here is one additional bit of evidence that the American dream need not forever be deferred.
Welcome to The Industrialized Woman, a podcast mini-series opening up the discussion to everyday women who have faced challenges in the workplace. It is currently a 3-episode arc focused on women in leadership, motherhood, and racial discrimination. Today's episode, Racial Discrimination. Our discussion guests are 2 wonderful women I have had the pleasure of working with in 2 separate employment opportunities. Amanda, a customer service specialist, and Umayyah, an aspiring healthcare professional.
So my name is Umayyah. I did work at CVS until last December, I believe. And then right after that, I started working at Kendra Scott, which it's like a jewelry shop in Shops at Legacy. So what I do with them is I go out with their events team, and we kind of have events everywhere. We set up our stall and then basically just sell the jewelry. And then I'm also going to school. Obviously, I go to UTD studying finance right now.
I'm Amanda. Obviously, I'm 24, born and raised in Dallas. Most of the stuff I've done for work has been customer service, some childcare mixed in there. Right now, I am in between jobs, trying to move from that typical, customer service work into the tech industry, which has definitely been a challenge. But yeah, like you said, Kat and I, we met at Friends, which was the type of job that I really love. Really shows that being with a good team environment helps a lot. But yeah, learned a lot on that, and excited to see what comes next.
Yay, definitely. I do love reading about your adventures through your LinkedIn posts. I think those are wonderful.
I try to manage.
The subject of this episode is discussing discrimination, especially against those of color in the workplace. An article by McKinsey and Company back in 2021 said that being accepted and respected in the workplace is a struggle more prominent for those of color. A study conducted by McKinsey and Leanin.org found the following. There's also a disconnect between companies' growing commitment to racial equity and the lack of improvement we see in the day-to-day experiences of women of color. Women of color face similar types and frequencies of microaggressions as they did 2 years ago. So that would be 2021, so 2019. So there's little progress between years. And they remain far more likely than white women to be on the receiving end of disrespectful and othering behavior. And while more white employees see themselves as allies to women of color, they are no more likely than last year to speak out against discrimination, mentor or sponsor women of color, or take other actions to advocate for them. Considering that, I wanted to know if you guys have an answer or what your idea is to why there's so much hate against female workers, and especially those of color.
I mean, it's definitely a combination of things. Those 2 big things are being of color and being a woman. And throughout history, those are just 2 things that have been frowned upon. People already get looked down on because of those 2 things. And so when you go into an environment one that's male dominated, and on top of that, they're all, white, people look at you oftentimes with disdain, with distrust. They look at you like maybe you're incompetent. And because of that, you have to prove yourself more and more and more. And it just kind of builds up and up and up. So, I mean, when it comes down to why there's so much discrimination, I mean, I think that just goes real deep,
Yeah.
a historical type of deep. It's just one of those things that's real confusing. And it's not so much at one point about why, it's just how can we combat it, I guess. Mm-hmm. I know I spend a lot of time racking my head, why is it this way? Why is this way? And then just at a certain point, it's just I've kind of just accepted that this is going to continue sucking. So I just have to do my best to prove myself and to keep pushing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And also, I feel like there's no way to really answer the question, why is there discrimination? Because, it's just been going on for so long that people just think it's normal. Even though, it's like not normal at all, and it's so messed up. Like people just go along with it. It's because like they've just been hearing it ever since we were born. At least we've been hearing discrimination over and over again, but nobody really knows the reason. Like, why do people actually discriminate against each other? What was the sole reason for it? So I feel like sometimes it's not even discrimination, it's more of like sexism, like where people think, like where men think that, oh, like, like she's a woman, she can't do what I do. I'm a man, like I'm more masculine, like I have leadership skills, like women don't have that. So I feel like that's what it is more nowadays. At least that's what I've seen more in the workplace. Instead of like discrimination, I've seen more like sexism, where people think that, oh yeah, like you're a girl, you can't do this. Like, oh, you're a man. Oh, okay, yeah. Why don't you go lift this for me because I'm a woman and I can't do this, you know?
Definitely, yeah. I think those are some great responses, and yeah, we really can't answer it fully, and it's definitely about, it's it's just become a normal, right? And so now, like
Yeah.
Amanda said, we got to figure out how do we move away from this. So
Exactly.
I think a good step in that direction is just, of course, just raising awareness. So that's something I'd love to do with what we're speaking about now. So if you're
Right.
comfortable with it, if each of you have faced any challenges of being a woman or just being someone of color, what are those challenges you faced, and what is your advice to those who might face those same challenges?
So like personally, like I haven't really faced challenges like that, but I
Mhm.
have seen it happen to my coworkers. So I
Okay.
can speak like, behalf of them. Like at my current job, there's like, there's obviously like it's very diverse. Everyone is from like different cultures, different places, different skin tones and stuff. And like I can see that sometimes it's like, and I don't mean to like be racist, obviously, but it's like the white girls, like they always think like they're superior for like, in front of everyone else. Like they think that, oh, like, like we can boss you around, you, like we'll all be working at the same level, everyone has the same exact job description, but it's like for some reason the non-color people think that they are just better than the color people, which doesn't usually make sense because everyone works at the same pace, everyone does the same exact thing, but they just feel like just because of the smallest difference in skin color, like they are better than someone. And like some ways they do that is like they'll try to act like the boss, they'll try to boss you around and be like, oh, like, like you do this, you do that. But it's like we're all working the same occupation. Like how do you think that you're able to tell me what to do? And that's what a lot of the girls like at work, like they experience, because they're like, I don't know why like they boss me around, like, we're all at the same level. So that's just something I've seen at my current job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, sure. Definitely raised a lot of good points, to say the least. For me, I guess most of the discrimination I've faced in the workplace has been regarding my race, rather than my gender. And I think that's because, like I said, I've always worked in like a childcare or customer service centric, um, world. And I mean, when it comes to biases against women, it's like, oh, like that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to take care of the kids, or we're supposed to be uh, servant leaders, that type of thing. So because of that, I don't think I've gotten a lot of, BS regarding being a woman, at least when it comes to work. But yeah, definitely regarding being Black. And like,
Mhm.
I think the most recent one that comes to mind is actually when Kat and I were working at Frozen. So that was a situation where I definitely had to be on my very best behavior. And I didn't realize until a certain age that people would brand me as that angry Black girl if I wasn't too careful. Even if I was in the right, I had to make sure I stayed as calm as possible, cannot match like the other person's level of energy or anger, no matter how much I want to, because I always know that that will be used against me. People will be looked down on me. And that was, I remember when that happened, I got really nervous. I was like, oh no, this is like a white man in a position of power against me. There's no witness around. He can twist this situation however he wants. I need to get in front of like a witness right away. That's the type of stuff that I unfortunately have to go through because of being a woman. Sometimes I've been seen as incompetent because, I'm a Black woman. But if I was a Black man, I'd probably go through it a little bit worse because there's kind of a stereotype of like against Black men being kind of like dumb or daft versus like Black women. I think they look at us with a little bit higher regard. I think most people know that Black women are a pretty like well-educated group. But in the workplace, yeah, it's definitely been about making sure that I don't fall into any of those stereotypes, that I'm lazy, that I don't know what I'm doing, that I have a slick mouth, or I'll be really aggressive. That's definitely the most stressful part about it as a whole. And then it's even more stressful if I walk into a new workplace and there's no one there who looks like me. That's kind of like, okay, now I have to represent the entire race. I have to be like the spokesperson for us. Maybe if these people have never really worked with someone like me before, I'm going to be the one who like is the blueprint in their mind. It comes with a lot of pressure, versus if I was like a white woman in the workplace, that's not something I'll probably ever have to worry about how I come off as a member of my race and my gender. It's a lot of unnecessary pressure. And in the end, a lot of the time I still come out on the bottom despite my best efforts.
Right. It definitely sounds like you said, there's a lot of pressure for you to be that person, to break that stereotype and let them know, I'm human just like you. I can do just as much work as you can. And then also, just like you're walking on eggshells, just to not give them fuel to feed their own bias about the stereotypes they've already put on you just from seeing you.
Yeah,
so definitely, it's just, I'm getting angry. I feel my chest is heating up. It's just so unfair.
You're a real one, that's why.
Yeah. But yeah, because I've definitely seen my coworkers, just get discriminated against, and then you're like, what am I supposed to do? And I don't know, I don't think I'm too white passing, because I'm half white, half Asian, so there are times where I'm like, why am I seeing those? Because I one of my jobs during Frozen was at this retail place, and my coworkers, and when we were all in middle management, so we all had a leadership position, but they were both Black, and I would see the white people above us treat them differently than me. And I'm like, why? What's the difference here? I'm also of color. So why is there like, this hierarchy of how you're going to treat someone depending on their background, right? So yeah, so definitely something I sympathize with, and I hope, we can find a way to overcome it. But I think you have a good head on your shoulders just to be like, let me just do what I can to make it best for me. But that's still, unfortunately, that's us putting a Band-Aid on the issue, right? Because so we're like, where do we go from here?
Like you're just pretending like it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Yep. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I just hope eventually we can come to a point where you don't have to live like that in a place where you're supposed to thrive and become a better person,
Yep. That's a hope.
That's a hope. If you guys could also share, any other advice you might have, or talk about, if you wish you would have done something differently facing these types of challenges when you're in the workplace, or if you've seen someone who has just inspired you about being a woman or being a person of color in the workplace.
I mean, I guess like some things you could do is like just not let the other people know like you're feeling some sort of way. Always be confident, always make it seem like you're feeling confident, because if you show them that you're feeling some sort of way, they're going to take that and just kind of like pinpoint that and take advantage of it. And you don't want that, obviously. Like you want to always like look confident, feel confident, let them know that you don't care. If you're a woman or if you're of color, it doesn't matter to you. Like you're happy with the way you are. If you let them think that you're feeling some sort of way, they're going to think that, oh, okay, like they're embarrassed of it, or like they're feeling this way of it or something. So always just be positive, and just, I feel like being confident is the best thing you can do, because if you show them that you're unbothered, like that's kind of embarrassing for them that they're even trying to make you feel some sort of way.
Definitely. Yeah. Great point. Just don't let yourself be ashamed of who you are. It's a power move, definitely, just to be like, oh, I'm not bothered by this. I know who I am, and I have faith in myself to overcome this. So I think that's a great point.
And going off of that, like that can also be a really draining thing, especially if you don't actually feel unbothered. So it's really just about faking it till you make it. And it's gonna take some time, it's gonna take some practice, but it's really about faking it till you make it and saying as positive as possible and just looking at, you know, the benefits of it. In the future, maybe you will be able to make your way up the ladder, or maybe this is just a temporary position and you just have to fake it till you make it until you can move on to something else. Also, try your hardest to find an ally in the workplace if you can, someone who does either look like you or does share your same viewpoints, just so they can be there for you to vent if you ever need to. Or if you're in a situation like I was, they can be a witness, someone who can corroborate your story when it really comes down to it, or can speak on behalf of your work ethic. That's always just something that's really important. But yeah, all in all, I definitely say just try your hardest to stay positive and understand that oftentimes it's not you, it's not anything you specifically did. It's just that the cards were stacked against you. And then in the future, when you are in a place where you can look for another role, you know, really pay attention to the culture of where you're applying to or trying to work. Do your research. If you're someone like me who's active on LinkedIn, take advantage of that. Look at the employees who are at the company you're currently trying to get into, reach out to someone. It's okay to ask in interviews or anything, what's the culture like? How diverse is it? What are you guys doing actively in your initiative towards diversity and equality and inclusion? Just asking those questions to kind of verify things before you even get into the actual position itself. Because once you get into the job and you realize it's bullshit, it's a little bit harder to get out of there. And now you're kind of stuck. So just kind of doing your research beforehand is what I would say. Because if it's something that's important to you, definitely verify it beforehand.
I'm definitely one of those people who go on interviews and I'm scared to ask any questions. But
just remember that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Yes.
That's a great point. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. That is a great point, because sometimes like when you're in an interview, like it's so intimidating and you just feel like, oh, like they're asking all the questions, but you have to understand, like if they're interviewing you, they want you. Right? So it's like you should ask even more questions back, kind of like make it a competition, not just like, oh, like whatever, like you can ask everything you want. Because I never ask questions either, because I always get scared, but I feel like it's a good, like you should ask questions, because not
always
they're interviewing
always
you.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
They some people, I remember I went on an interview not too long ago, and he had it was his first interview, so he kind of had like a guide where he would like take notes of what I was saying. And I remember I saw at the very bottom of the page it said, did they ask questions? And it was yes or no, which kind of just proves like that's something they actually grade you on. They want you to ask questions, no matter how like basic it is. They take it as like, wow, like they're interested in it. So if anything, definitely ask those questions just to make sure they don't discriminate against you any further. Don't give them a reason. Just be like, oh, what's the next steps for the process? What's your favorite thing about working here? People love that question for whatever reason. What's the culture like? You know.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. I'll have to remember that. That's pretty much all the questions I have for you guys. So I do want to open up the floor if you guys think there's any other point that we should address, or just anything else that comes to mind you'd love to express for other people to hear.
Just really try to find the best place that you belong. Make sure that you don't skimp out on finding a role where you really feel like you fit in, because you will become miserable if you stay in a workplace where you feel like you are being discriminated against, you feel like you are being undervalued or underappreciated, especially if it's because of your race or your gender. Just understand fully that you deserve the best possible work environment, because that's going to be like 30% of your life, like what we spend like probably like a third of our entire lives like after adulthood working. So make sure it's somewhere that's good and not racist or sexist.
Well, I really appreciate you guys for opening up and sharing and talking on this matter. I really hope, it does bring some more awareness to other people, or at least give some inspiration for those like us who just need that push to keep going despite adversaries we face. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you. I hope this is sufficient for your project.
I think so. No worries. You guys have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye, all.
You too.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. For additional information and resources, please go to bit.ly/TWI podcast. There, you can access full transcripts of each episode, as well as mentioned resources and references in relation to each episode. Today's intro featured a recording of Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan was the first African American woman voted to the Texas Senate. Defying all odds against her, she fought for civil and human rights. See more about her on our website at bit.ly/TWI podcast resources. The intro and outro music is a track called Something About Something by Sarah the Instrumentalist, made available through epidemicsound.com. That's EPIDEMIC sound.com. Thank you for tuning in.